Hey everybody, Regina Andler here, and it's time for Coffee with Regina. And I have my friend Beverly Zeimet with me. We're having some technical difficulties with her picture coming up though, but we didn't want to be too late coming onto the stream, so we just figured we'd do it like this. So wave hi to the little circle with the person in it. Hey Beverly, good morning.
It was a lot better morning, but it's going to be a great morning. The information is what counts, right?
Exactly. This is kind of a first that we haven't been able to get a video working, but we can still work with this. This is what we call technical difficulties, and we find workarounds for whatever we have to work around with, right?
Yep,
So
that's right. That's
yeah, so
right.
we're going to work around with this. And before we get into everything, let me tell you all a little bit about Beverly, other than the fact that we're having some video technical difficulties. So Beverly Zeimet is an author, a speaker, a holistic practitioner, a podcast host, workshop, boot camp, and retreat facilitator who works with the healing arts using frequencies, meditation, and emotional clearing and healing to help guide others in discovering their identity, their purpose, and passion in life on their spiritual journey. So she's got over 45 years in the industry, and she's traveled across US and Canada teaching thousands. And for fun, she loves nature, hiking, dancing, singing, and reading, which are literally everything on my list as well. So welcome,
Maybe
Beverly.
that's why we connect, right?
Right? Amazing, right? So while this just is what it is, we'll just keep talking. As I like to see people, but with things being how they are, we'll just start getting into it. Let's chat about the whole idea of passion and purpose with business owners. What do you think is the biggest thing that holds business owners back from really going out and pursuing what they're passionate about and their purpose?
That's a great question. I think it all boils down to their identity. We go through different phases of life, and so we identify ourselves with our surroundings, so to speak, our environment, the people we do business with, the technical world, the digital world, all of these things play a role in who we are. But we have to understand, what is it or who is it that identifies who we truly are from that soul? And that identity in the basics of the belief you have in yourself and the understanding you have with yourself, the trust that you have in yourself, where it is that you're going in life. And if you allow that self-sabotager to take over, or that brain chatter that we all get caught up in sometimes, it's getting out of the thinking brain and getting into the understanding, the emotional brain and the logic brain, which are two sides of the fence, so to speak, right? So, and that's kind of what I'm all about, is to really help you start to understand the workings and the functionings in the brain. How you communicate with yourself is how you communicate with the outside world, right? So and again, it's that identifying who you are, because that is who is going to be, if you're in business, the client that you want to identify, right?
Right. Right. Most of the time your clients are you who you used to be back before you became who you are now. And so when you can really connect with yourself, it makes a big difference.
Yes. Yeah. And that sometimes it's easier said than done, when you're like when you can see a person. So this is going to really, kind of have you going into a different element of your visualization and how you picture things, because you're not always going to have that visual. And this is, again, some part of that understanding in the miscommunication and the disconnect when they're in conversation, is because, like, by phone, it was always about hearing what's being said and really listening. So I think our listening skills have kind of gone by the wayside a little bit because we focus on that visual. Maybe that's what the message is here today, right? There's
Is
always something behind the scenes that we don't understand,
is this the
so
universe trying to tell us something?
yeah, you never know, it comes in strange ways, right? I got a chill when you said that. It really is about hearing those words. A radio came before TV, which was basically the visual, right? So when you look at that, how you speak and how you write to get the perceptions and the meanings across of what you want is completely different than when all you're doing is just hearing it versus seeing it. With the visual, we start to take in a whole lot more. So being in that creative mind and understanding, again, where is your identity? Sometimes looking in the mirror and just asking yourself, who really are you? From that soul level, who really are you and why are you here? And what is your purpose? And finding that passion. So where do we go with that? Because there's always somebody out there that wants to hear what you have to say, because it's going to do what? It's going to transform their lives. And with the culture difference, the area of where we live, the digital space that we're in, the world has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, right? And so when you begin to take all of that into effect, our database of information has changed. And you're working in the AI, it's like, whoa, it used to be encyclopedias, right? Oh, well, not anymore. I mean, we have AI, but is it always factual? Does it really resonate? Does it hit you in that sweet spot of your truth, your integrity, your belief? So it's always about deciphering whether you're listening to an AI, whether you're listening to a radio, whether you're listening to a meditation, whether you're listening to this conversation right here, is where is your perception all is at? It's how do you hear it? How do you interpret those words? How do you identify with what is coming in your circle to what is actually in the inner working of who you are? And it's building that confidence and that trust and that belief in yourself, because it has to start inside of you to make a difference on the outside world, right?
Right. Right. So let's bring this up then. I'm going to kind of flip it 180 because there's so many people who are out there that were brought up to be who their parents thought they should be, society thought they should be, and all of this other stuff. So call it head garbage or whatever you want to call it. It's that head trash is kind of holding them back of trying to figure out, well, I know I'm meant for something else, but I don't know what it is because I'm so blocked with everything that's going on in my head and all this head trash because I know I'm supposed to be like this. And it's like, really? Are you really supposed to be like that? Or did somebody tell you that? What do you do with that?
That's a great question because it's true. And again, it goes right back into how do we identify with ourselves? So it's that soul searching aspect of it. And when you look at how you were brought up and how the expectations of your parents, you always want to make your parents proud of what you do, right? You want their acceptance. And we end up going through life looking for acceptance by the neighbor, by the relationship partner, by the business partner, by your boss, by your fellow employees, by the person who's checking out your groceries, by the one behind the coffee machine. All of these aspects, right? Those make up who you are, except are they really you? So when you look at that personalization and start to really search for that, what makes you feel good? Right?
Mm,
And then look at yourself. Are you a parent? Are you in an area of business like a teacher, a university teacher, school teacher, whatever? Where is all of the things that are happening as you grow through life? Again, it's that be what your spouses or your parents want you to be and be the best at it and all of that kind of stuff. It should be coming from that personal aspect. So when we get in our 20s and our 30s and our 40s and our 50s and sometimes even 60s and 70s, there's that, oh my gosh, I grew up, I got married, I had kids, and I took care of them, and that was my job, so to speak, and that's a hell of a job. But at the same point, it's like, but I think I was meant for more than this. Now what do I do? And so we're finding a lot of baby boomers that are saying, I want to live for me. I don't have a partner anymore because they've passed on or you got a divorce or whatever the case might be. You find yourself completely empty nesting. Now I just want to be and do what I want to do, but it's like, what is that? So
Yeah,
it's that
it's what do I
investigate.
want to be when I grow up, right?
Well, you know what I did? I had an answer for that. I decided I wasn't going to grow up.
There you go.
And so I actually stayed under 5 foot, 4'11" and 3/4 to be exact. So I figured if I hit that 5 foot or beyond, I'd have to grow up, and then I'd have to act like everybody else, and, oh my goodness, that was not gonna be a thing for Beverly. And, you know, I guess find that little rebel in yourself. Who is that little rebel that says, "I dare me to do this," right?
Mm.
So dare yourself to step out of that little block, that little cage, that thing that is making your destiny that's not your destiny. What is defining you every day you get up to repeat and repeat all of that? The insanity of life, right? So do one thing different a day, one thing. Instead of pouring your coffee with your right hand, pour it with your left hand. Instead of getting out of the right side of the bed, get out of the left side. It's to start.
I think if I pour my coffee with my right hand, I'd probably spill my coffee, and that wouldn't be good. If I got out of the wrong side of the bed, that would just feel weird. But you're right; it's about doing something different, right?
Right,
So, and making some kind of a change because if you aren't really sure who you are or where you want to be, and and some people are like, well, I know who I am. I do this, and this is what I am. But when you ask the really deep questions of, but are you really happy? Are you really comfortable, confident, and joyful inside with what you do? And if you can't
right.
answer immediately yes, then chances are pretty good, as far as I'm concerned, that you're not 100% on target with that passion, that purpose, because we all have that. I believe that we're all born with it. I mean, when I talk about uncovering, I talk about uncovering your inner unicorn, right? So when you think about all of those things and you're going, okay, I do this, I like to do this, but something's just not quite right. If that's where you are, then there probably is something that's not quite right that you're meant to do. And you need to be open enough to be able to go out and search for whatever that is, or maybe chat with somebody like Beverly, who is great at helping you uncover it if you're like, I don't know, I'm lost.
That's really a great perspective of how you put that because it is true. When you start to really look at that, it's just like, am I 100% happy? 100%? And again, I mentioned earlier, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And my motto is, I'll try it once. If I like it, I'll do it again. If I don't, I'd try something different. It's just like, you ever jump out of a plane? Oh my gosh, you should do it, but make sure you got a parachute. And it
Haven't
is that to me was so freeing and so refreshing. And it's like, and I liked it. And so what did I do? I kept doing it again and again and again because it's something I enjoyed. I was excited about it the first time. Was I a little anxious? Yeah, but you know what? I was going to do it no matter what. So you if you want to find that passion, don't let that fear of the unknown prevent you from doing it. You don't have to go as drastic as jumping out of a plane. Maybe it's like going kayaking for the first time, or maybe go skiing for the first time, or run a
hiking.
5K, exactly. All these little things. Write a book. Start with one chapter. There's so many little things that you can start doing that go beyond, because you're never going to know if you don't become a Nike. And when I say that, I mean, it's just do it. You will never know if you don't do it.
That is so true, and so many people just they hold back, whether it's not always fear. A lot of times it's a fear-based thing because they're scared to try something. But I think a lot of times it's not the fear of actually doing it, it's the fear of what other people will think.
You just took the words out of my head. That is so true. It's like, what will other people think? You know what? There's another caption here that is, and take this with you. It really doesn't matter what other people think or say about you. It matters what you think and say about you. Because again, it goes back to that inner unicorn, as you call it, right?
Mhm.
It's that soul essence of who you are. And if you're going to live your life being what you think everybody else wants you to be for approval,
It's gotta be
that's
miserable.
yeah, exactly. And frankly, I like to rock the boat. So if people are talking about me, they're not talking about you, so you're safe, okay? So just hang around with me and you can do whatever you want because I'll make sure they have the attention on me. How's that?
This is why you and I get along so well because we're both boat rockers.
Yeah, yeah, but you know what? If we do tip that boat, we're definitely going to make sure that we take care of you first and get you back in the boat first. So,
Right, exactly. So, yeah, we're both the type who it's like, you know what? I don't know if that'll work. Let's try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, then we know one way not to do it. If it does
that,
work, it's like, yes.
yeah. And can you make it better?
Yeah.
Yes. There's always room for that growth. It's always getting better. Be the best you that you can be. So when you wake up in the morning, sit up and stretch and say, "Today I'm going to be the best me that I can be." How does that work? Good question. Well, you know what? Beverly has tools in her toolbox, that can give you that direction and that guidance. And all you have to do is just pull one of those tools out of that box and say, okay, what can I do today? And that's going to kind of help you focus on a lot of the things that we just were talking about, Regina, in what can I do new today? What can I do today that I did different yesterday?
Mm.
I'll eat popcorn for breakfast instead of for afternoon snack. Try that. The first time I sat down, and again, it's that breakfast thing, it's eggs and bacon and pancakes and, the regular breakfast things, right? So one day I decided I'm gonna have a salad for breakfast. And I make this big, beautiful salad, and get it all going. And I sit down and I'm looking at it, and it's like, here's that old pattern. That's not breakfast food, right? And it's like, well, so what? We're gonna eat it. And and I did, and just something that small, the taste was different. I felt different energy throughout the day. I didn't feel bogged down. I'm like, "Wow, I could get used to this." You know, so just those little things, them little shifts make a huge difference.
Yeah,
So
it's funny that you say that because when you said that, I thought about I had done some shifts too because of the obstacle racing that I do. And at one point, I said, okay, I'm going to have chicken and vegetables for breakfast because I needed a protein and I needed the vegetables. And just eating chicken for breakfast, just it was like, well, chicken's a lunch or a dinner food. It's not a breakfast food. And when I sat down to eat it, I just felt weird. But then I
yeah,
ate it like, yeah, but it still tastes good. It was like, who cares what time of the day I'm eating it? Our brains are so wired to to it's that habit of, oh, it's breakfast, it has to be eggs, it has to be pancakes, whatever, it has to be breakfast
right.
food. I was like, no, it doesn't. I was like, who made that rule up?
Yeah, the person who taught it to you when you were little, right? And that's what you mentioned right from the very beginning. It's all of these patterns. So when we begin to recognize our patterns that have turned into habits, that have turned into the identity of who you are. So if
Mm,
you're going to identify with having a cup of coffee and an egg and toast for breakfast, then that's stating who you are. But if you go against it and have a piece of chicken or a salad for breakfast instead, it's like, whoa, So start small and start to recognize those patterns. If you want to make a transformational change, there, I'm gonna ask you this question. Do you know the difference between change and transformation?
Hmm. I could take a stab at it, but I want to hear yours. Change is literally doing something different. Transformation's making it stick.
That is a really good description because when you make a change, change can just be in the moment, but it also gives you the opportunity to fall back into what feels comfortable. Even if you're miserable, it's comfortable and it's predictable. But if I do something really different, if I transform out of it, because transformation, it's like taking a log. It's a piece of wood and it's always going to be a piece of wood in that form. But if you throw it in a fire, it becomes ashes. It will never go back into a log.
Hmm.
So when you make that life altering transformation, you can't go back into that comfort zone of miserability because it no longer exists. So rather than asking yourself the question, if it's predictable and I've lived with it, and so I guess I'm destined for it. If that's your belief, well, guess what? You're going to keep getting more of the same stuff. But if you want to move the other way, where it's like, wait a minute, I want to align with the truth of who I am. I want to discover who that little unicorn is in there, that horny little unicorn, right? That flies. Woo, think about that. And I said that on purpose. So I want you to take that visual, okay? Right? And really get out there and step out of that comfort zone and say, by golly, I got this. I can do this. I don't want to be identified from my past because if you want a different identity in your future, you've got to leave the past behind. And the only way you can leave it behind 100% is going through that transformation.
Hmm.
And when you listen to the silent messages, and that's one of the things I teach too, is how to hear those silent messages. And that's why you and I love nature and hiking because we listen to all the silence out there that speaks very, very loud.
Very loud.
And
Absolutely.
so when you can do that, get out of your brain chatter, comfort, miserability into this vast world of unlimited possibilities. That's when you start to find your purpose, your true identity, and a passion to where now you can share that with others and say, hey, I was once there. I know how to get out of that. Want me to share? And that's kind of what Regina and I are both doing here today is to give you an opportunity if you choose. And again, which side of the fence are you on? I wrote a book called Which Side of the Fence Are You On? Because we live in this duality world, right? Are we going to live in the duality world of yeah, but I know what this is and it's predictable? Or am I gonna say, I don't know what's over there, but I'm adventure enough. I'm gonna go there and see what it is. And again, give it a shot. If you don't like it, you don't have to keep doing it. Try something different. It's unlimited possibilities, unlimited choices. You are in charge of your choice. And that's one of the first things you need to decide. And again, how much do you believe in yourself? How much do you trust in yourself? How much do you actually love yourself unconditionally? Did you guys hear that word? Hear that word? Unconditionally. Quit judging yourself.
Yeah,
Quit
and it's
having a
so
pity
true.
party. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so true because when you think about the stuff we put on ourselves, we look other people see us a completely different way than we see ourselves. And most of the time we're so hard on ourselves. And when you say, how much do you love yourself? How confident are you? How trusting of yourself are you? I'm guessing that many people, the average person is going to say not so much because they're so busy with everybody else and all of their stuff that it's okay, well, I have to live up to this stuff over here. It's like, why don't you stop for a minute
Yeah.
and reflect inside and see, well, where are actually you for you as opposed to you for everybody else.
Exactly. And that goes back into that manipulation, because when you give up your power and you become that people pleaser, think about it. Really give it some thought. Everybody out there, I mean, let's just say everybody, but there's a lot of people out there doing the same thing that you are. So nobody really gives a rat's about you. They only give a rat's about what people think about you, which really is crazy. But I'll guarantee you, all the billions of people that live in the world, somebody out there is going to really love and like you for who and what exactly it is that you are. So step out of that comfort zone, move beyond it, and dare yourself to make the transformation, not the change, the transformation, and be able to speak up for yourself. Take your power back,
Right.
and quit allowing your past to manipulate you. When you hear yourself saying, yeah, well, my mom told me this, or my dad told me this, or my grandma told me that, or my teacher's mom, whatever, right? Well, if you own it and you're going to live in it, and let's just say they're not even in a physical body anymore, and they're still defining who and what you do and how you do it,
Mm-hmm.
it's time to reclaim the essence of who you are. Discover your identity, and you're going to find out that, wow, you really are this great person, and you really do have a purpose. And there's someone out there who needs what you have to offer, because it's going to be a life-changing incident for them.
I love that line, reclaim the essence of who you truly are.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And it's so true. So when you think about it, we're talking kind of like in general for life. As
Mhm.
business owners, so many business owners basically hold themselves back. They don't go to their true potential because of this very thing. They don't
Right.
really reflect inside. They don't look at all the stuff going on. They're just too busy trying to please everybody outside. And it's like when you step in, you might go, wow, I'm playing really small here. I can totally do better than this. But you're not giving yourself the chance to go there. So it's really, you got to
Right.
stop and reflect in order to make the transformation as opposed to just the change. It starts with change and becomes transformation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the only person that can answer that question is you.
Mhm.
And, one other thing I'd like to say to the audience as well is to really, really hear what I'm about to say, because it's a soccer punch. You can never give outside of yourself what you give to yourself.
Mm.
So, what are the lies that you tell yourself that have become your truths, which then again is something that puts you out of integrity with yourself, because it rocks the boat, because you're trying to please or continue in that comfort zone of miserability. So I hear so many moms say, "Oh my gosh, I love my kids more than I love myself." Is that a true statement or a false statement? If you don't love yourself 100% unconditionally, you cannot give that. It's no different than if I would say, "Hey, Regina, give me $1,000," and you say, "I only have 800." And it's like, "Oh, well, is that at 100%? No, it's 200 short. So you're 80%, but you're 20% short." It's no different when you're giving love, when you're giving security, when you're giving belief, when you're teaching, and all these things. Again, it has to come from you at 100%, when you believe in yourself 100%. And when you teach that child, or even a client, when you start working in that capacity, it's like being true to themselves and believing 100% in who they are. And again, it goes right back into that identity. Identify who you are. You make who you are. Don't let the world boss you around and manipulate into being something that you're truly not. So if you don't feel comfortable in your own skin, you are not aligned. It's just like your car. Think about it. I was in the automotive industry for 20 years, so I like to use cars. So when your car is going down the road and it's wobbling and you're hanging onto the steering wheel, what does that mean? Hmm, maybe the tires need alignment. Well, when you're going down the road and you don't know where you're going because you're weaving all over the place, maybe you need alignment. So it's no different. Look at your physical vessel the same way you would look at your car. And when you're ready to take your brain to the mechanic, think about this conversation right here. The brain collision repair workshop is going to do what? It's going to align you in your life, in your identity, and really impact you in that life changing transformations that's going to take you from being something that you're really not to discovering who you really are, bringing that little unicorn to life and fly. That's freedom. And freedom comes in many, many forms, right? So when you're ready to make the choice to make a transformation, to really have that happiness, that harmony, that peace, that tranquility, then reach out to those that are here to say, let me take you by the hand because I was once where you are. And let's see what we can do to get you to the other side of the fence, right?
That is awesome advice. And I was kind of chuckling inside when you said that. I had a face-to-face meeting with one of my local clients yesterday, and she presented me with this. It's a little
Oh my
unicorn
God. Oh, I just
with
got
wings.
chills. Oh my gosh.
She handed it to me. She goes, "I saw it and I had to get it for you." And you were talking about, be the unicorn, even with the wings. And I was like, oh my God, that is just such perfect timing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. When you talk about perfect timing, it is in the timing.
Yeah.
When the student is ready, the teacher appears. And when the teacher is ready, the student will appear. You know, it's it's up to the individual. How bad do you want it? Do you want it more than what you already have?
Mhm.
Then be a Nike and just do it.
There you
Right?
go. Hey, we are just about out of time here. We're actually out of time here. But, one of the things with our technical difficulties here that I didn't get from you is how to contact you so I could throw it up there on the screen.
Oh, well,
Yeah. So
um,
you can if you want to put it in the chat, I can share it up here on the screen so everybody can see it. We'll definitely make sure that it's underneath each one of
in all
the
the show notes
videos.
and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can give you the best way to reach me is probably like on LinkedIn, right? Is a good
Okay.
place or Facebook, you know. Oh, you can't even put my name up there. Well,
Well, if you put it into the private chat here on
mhm.
StreamYard, I can show it up on the screen.
All right. So let me give you my LinkedIn copy.
Now that will
No,
make sure that people know how to get a hold of you because I'll tell you, Beverly is somebody you need in your life. When I first met Beverly, it was like instant connection because we are. It's like what is it? Sisters from another mister? Is that how they say it? I don't even know how they say, how they say that.
I think it's a sister from a sister from another mother or something like
I, I,
that.
I don't know. I don't know how that one works. But um, but yeah, it's like it's the connection is there because of how we think. So Beverly and I both have found that. So we've
Yeah,
spent a lot of times. Beverly and I both were kind of probably where a lot of people still are right now. We're no different than anybody else. It just at some point we said, there's something not right. And instead of just sitting there and just going, well, okay, well, I guess it is what it is. I hate that phrase. It is what it is. Instead
it
of
only
saying,
is what it is until you transform it.
exactly. And so at some point, it was like you got tired of saying it is what it is. And you went, you know what? Yeah, but it doesn't have to be that way. So, what do I want to
Exactly.
do different? And we made the change, made a shift, and actually transformed into something else. I have people in my life that I barely even see anymore because it's they insist on staying where they are, even though they know they can do something and be something better. They
Right.
insist on being where they are. And as much as I want to help them and say, you know what, you grow out, you can grow out of that. You can do something different. You can transform, you can change. It's when you think about that, and people are stuck where they are and they want to stay stuck.
Yeah.
I get
And
to the
that's a
point where
choice, right? That's a
exactly.
choice.
And I
Yeah.
and I get to the point where I'm like, okay, well, that's your choice. My choice is to not stay stuck like that. And so I'm going to keep transforming. Transforming is not something that you do once. Transformation is something that it's a continuous process. You're transforming into something continuously, something new. So,
And it really new? It's just something that's unfamiliar. I like to look at life as a game of Jeopardy. We have all the answers. The only thing we don't have are the correct questions. So it's kind of like Chat GPT, right? So it's the prompt. So how we prompt ourselves to get those correct answers of who is that little unicorn in there? Who is that real unicorn? Because that little unicorn is just like what you showed. It's that cute little, animal that can fly, but it also matures. And that's where the transformation happens all the time. So it's a rebirthing of yourself. Find that little playful unicorn and go out there and play and test the waters and have fun. And then come back to this post and say, oh my gosh, I did this and this is what happened. We would love to hear from you because that's that's where it's all about. And the more we can do that with each other, uh, it get away from those that are holding you because you have to remember too, like what you said, you don't see a lot of people because you've moved on and they're still there. It's when you stay in a circle
mhm,
that holds you and binds you from your freedom, you don't transform. It's just there. And again, it's who's running that show. So look at the people that are in this circle and who are the ones that are holding you there and keeping you there and feeding you with information that's going to keep you there. And again, where are the false truths coming from? Where are
mhm.
you giving up your power? Where are you giving up your freedom? Where are you choosing to live an identity that's not in integrity and belief and truth of who you are? Find that little unicorn, become that little unicorn, and fly and soar to unlimited worlds.
Exactly. That is a great sentiment to end this chat on because we're way over time, but that's okay. We had some technical difficulties, but this worked out great because I'll tell you, I was actually since I just listening and not watching the body and all that kind of stuff, you take in so much more. So, things happen for a reason, right?
They do. And sometimes they don't. You never know what it is until way after the fact. And it's like, yeah. So go out there, get heard, get seen, be you, be real. Find that unicorn. Thank you so much,
Awesome.
Regina. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today and your audience.
Yeah, thank you so much, Beverly, for being here. You have been the most amazing guest that I've had on here for this specific topic in a long time because we haven't really talked about this as much. And it is the foundation of everything,
It,
right?
it truly is. It truly is. And I like that word foundation.
Mhm.
So find your foundation because if you don't build on a solid foundation, you're gonna you're gonna run out of alignment. You're gonna be that floppy car driving all over the place, right? So it starts
Exactly.
with that foundation. Yep.
Mm. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Beverly.
Well, thank you for having me.
And thank you everybody, those who join us live and those catching the replay for joining us. And we'll see you
I
next
need one
time.
of those coffee cups.
Actually, one of my clients gave me this too. I get all kinds of gifts from my clients. They love me.
Well, there's what's not to love.
So, we'll see you all next time on Coffee with Regina. Bye for now.
Bye bye.